A very good evening to you. Welcome to another Hot Button Issue broadcast right here on Choice Television with me, Timothy Polion. We conclude at about 10 o'clock this evening with the clip that peaked, and you don't want to miss that. In just a moment, I'll be introducing to you my special guest. First, my guest, well, he's been the subject of a debate over the last few outings by the ruling St. Lucia Labour Party. I'm referring there in particular to last Sunday's launching of the Dennery South candidate for the ruling St. Lucia Labour Party, Mr. Jerome Gideon. And it was there that the political leader of the SLP made a particular comment, and since then we're getting some reaction. Let's put this whole issue into context with the report now from Jason Hollingseed of Choice News Now.
The Prime Minister described the upcoming poll as a very critical one. Dr. Kenny Anthony made reference to more advancements in the areas of job creation, growth of the economy, construction and infrastructural development.
That we have to build now a new St. Lucia. Now that we have saved this economy from the jaws of the IMF, now that investment is returning, unemployment is declining, now is the time to grow this economy. To grow this economy, that it could be the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean. We are ready for it, and this is what the members of this party wish to do.
Prime Minister Anthony did not speak to the issues of land birds, the high rate of youth unemployment, and the Jufali affair, which are being highlighted on a daily basis. However, what he did was urged attendees at the ruling St. Lucia Labour Party rally to keep the SLP in the seat of power to make the required gains.
I want you to give me the tools to finish this job. This means that this country must never ever be placed in the hands of Alan Chastanet and his father, Michael Chastanet. That is our mission. I said to you before, this is not a battle between the Labour Party and the United Workers' Party. I will repeat what I have said. This election is more than that. The people of St. Lucia must never allow their government to operate by remote control in secret bedrooms and back rooms. That must never happen.
For Choice News Now, I am Jason Holland.
Thank you very much, Jason, for this report which was filed on Monday evening during the Choice News Now broadcast. And joining Hot Button Issue is Mr. Michael Chastanet. Welcome to the program, sir.
Night, Tim. Thanks for being here.
How are you doing, sir, in terms of your health? Because I remember just a few weeks ago you were not feeling too well.
Right.
Widely reported, I think you went overseas to seek medical treatment. How are you doing?
Everything is good, you know, Tim. It would appear that I suffered from a twisted lower intestine, and actually it was spotted here in St. Lucia, but I thought, Alan thought that maybe I wanted some more attention and went up to Miami, but there was no operation done or anything at all. I spent 3 days at the hospital and it cleared itself, yeah? So I'm back to normal, and I checked with the doctor and he said that he's no guarantee that won't happen again, but the likelihood of happening in my lifetime is very remote. But other than that, I'm fine.
Moving on to the issue of the day. You just heard the report and the comments made by Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony.
Yeah.
What's he?
Well, you know, Tim, I think it's about the fourth time Dr. Anthony has passed those comments. And the first time, I took it lightly. But now I am going to take this matter very seriously, because more importantly, when he says that the elections are between the SLP and Michael and Alan Chastanet, the United Workers' Party represents almost 50% of the voters in St. Lucia. So say that's 30,000 people, and a team and 17 members of parliament, or should I say not members of parliament, but 17 representatives for the United Workers' Party. Am I to understand that myself and Alan are more powerful than 30,000 people and a team of persons in the United Workers' Party. So to me, if it's not insanity, I don't want to say what else it could be, but the fact that Dr. Anthony, who's an educated individual, can come out so blatantly and say those things is very worrisome. Very, very worrisome. As a matter of fact, only recently, I think it was on your show, Newspin, somebody questioned you when you read an article, I think it was an editor of the paper, and they wanted to know why you read it. And you passed a comment and you said, this is not a communist state. And when I hear things like what Dr. Anthony is saying, it is very worrying for St. Lucia. Because as a business person in St. Lucia, Dr. Anthony has to understand very clearly that it's business people who drive an economy. When I listen to his supporters and his press secretaries talking about how good Dr. Anthony was and he made so many payments to people and gave so many jobs here, I want St. Lucia to know that when Dr. Anthony gives a job, he gives it out of taxpayers' money. And people like myself and other successful business people in this country are the ones that really provide the funds. We go to the bank, we borrow money, we put our shoulder to the blade, and we work our butts off, okay, and pay a lot of taxes. I mean, I didn't come here tonight to elaborate on the kind of taxes we pay. But prior to our departing from CFL, CFL pays about $50 million a year in taxes, which is customs duties. Another $50 million a year in salaries. Another $20 million a year in income tax and NIS. So you're talking one company alone paying over $120 million annually. Now, it's one thing paying those taxes, but to run a business and stay out of the red, unlike government that's running a company in the red all the time and continuing to borrow money and paying 6 and 7% for bonds and just spending it like there's no tomorrow. That people should think really what they say. And I take umbrage to those comments that the Prime Minister, and he's going to pay a very dear price for it, and that's what I feel.
What do you mean by that, pay a dear price for it? From what perspective?
From what aspect?
At what
well,
hands?
What I mean in the sense that there are many business people who are very upset over those comments, okay? And remember, business people help our administrations. Prior to all this taking place in St. Lucia, I want St. Lucia to know that I was not in politics, and we work together with all governments, because the governments need us and we need governments. We need proper governments to be able to create an atmosphere for us to do our business. And when I say pay the price, how can any businessman in St. Lucia be happy today? I know for a fact that when he passed the comment, the chamber wrote him a letter and told him they were most unhappy of the letter. But he doesn't care. He just continues to do this thing there, as though he can just say those things and do everything. I don't work for Kenny Anthony, okay? I'm a business person. I want St. Lucians to know that when himself and his affiliates talk about political power and economic power, as somebody said to me, if they have no economic power and they get political power, they're looking for economic power. The economic power that they claim that I have, I just want St. Lucians to know that one thing. From age 16, I have been working my butt off, okay? As a matter of fact, I worked for Kenny Anthony's father when from the time I was 16 years, because his father had an estate called Park Estate with 500 acres of land and hundreds of people working on it, okay? And I used to carry copra from Chazelle to Castries and so forth at 25 cents a bag, lifting the copra myself and putting it on board the boat. So Kenny Anthony should really be proud of Michael Chastanet as a St. Lucian who came from nothing, worked his way up, and can do all what I've done in St. Lucia. You know, it's always felt, Tim, that until somebody has not paid a salary, They don't understand business. Yeah.
Is it illogical for Dr. Kenny Anthony as Prime Minister and political leader of the SLP not to believe that if Mr. Alan Shasta becomes the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, that you will not have a hand in the stewardship of the island, that you will be so far removed from the leadership of St. Lucia? Is that what you're saying?
I would imagine so. But you know, Dr. Hanty has to understand that blood is thicker than water. Alan is my son. Did I ever want Alan to go into politics? The answer is no. But that is his decision. I'm not going to turn my back on Alan. Definitely not. I will support Alan all the way. And supporting Alan doesn't mean that I hate Kenny Anthony. But I love St. Lucia, okay? I mean, when you look at St. Lucia today, through no fault of anybody, I don't lay blame on anybody now, but St. Lucia has been in recession for 4 years. I personally told Dr. Anthony to his face when he instituted the VAT, PM, be careful because you're going to destroy this country. The country was already ailing when he came on board because of the world recession. And he gave the medication, but I suppose politicians think differently. He figured if he did it early, he had 5 years ahead of him, things would get better. It backfired. Tim, I told Dr. Anthony that I had 41 tenants at Gabe Woods Mall, and I never lost a tenant in 18 years. 2.5 years after the VAT was implemented, we lost 31 tenants. Now, it's not only losing the tenants, you know. These are people who were small entrepreneurs, gone, never to come back again. And the people who have replaced them today are just struggling. They're paying half the rent and they cannot pay. They cannot pay the electricity. We have to go and collect VAT. Every month, it's a chore on a business that's doing very poorly. I have to find over $70,000, $80,000 a month to pay VAT. And what hurts me even more, I don't know why we as business people have to go and do government's work and collect VAT. Go and collect your VAT yourself. It's so difficult to collect a little bit of rent, but more difficult to take the VAT with it.
But I move on to repeat the question again. And repeat the question. That is, the suggestion has been given by the Prime Minister and other people that if Mr. Alan Chastanet becomes the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, basically you will have a hand in managing the affairs of St. Lucia. Through him, you will have a say, you will have influence.
But Tim, let us assume Alan becomes Prime Minister of this country, and he has at least, say, let us for argument's sake, they win 10 or 11 seats. Do you think any of those guys who have worked their butt off are going to let Michael Chastanet come in and make any decisions? That's not my role. I mean, I will tell you quite frankly, the same thing I do to Kenny Anthony now, I will say to them. I can make suggestions to them, okay? And hopefully that they will listen, okay? Just like Mr. Dalso went and said that I'm going to move into government house. I want Mr. Dalso to know one thing. I've never worked for anybody in my life. And at my age, I've just turned 80. Can you pick up Michael Chastanet sitting at government house? Anyway, to answer your question, the answer is no, okay? But if they want my assistance or my advice, I'm always there, okay? But Alan is 55 years of age. He has his team. Right now, for instance, some days I don't even see Alan for almost a week. For instance, Alan is off the country. I didn't even know he left the country today. He doesn't owe me anything. He's a big man.
Should there be a mix between economic and political power? Somebody who already has economic power.
Right.
You think it's dangerous giving them political power, putting all that power, all that influence into one hands? What do you think will happen to St. Lucia if that power is misused? If you want to have a vendetta against somebody, if you want to take action against them, if you want to hold people to ransom?
Tim, everything in life is relative. I told you at age 16, I started with nothing. Do you think that in a lifetime, a young poor boy from St. Lucia, starting from scratch, that I could have amassed that amount of wealth to create. I'm not a Dr. Juvali, you know. I'm not a Mr. Shuguri, okay? When I want to go to Barbados, I take a liat like everybody else. My funds are limited, okay? But I'm very cautious what I do with my money because I don't intend to be a beggar on the street. So when they talk of political power, you're talking of real money. I'm not in that category. Yeah? What can I really do? Tim.
Would you be prepared to reveal what you're worth?
What I worth? Well,
in terms of money.
Again, first of all, thanks to Dr. Anthony, my wealth has been halved in the last 3.5 years because my properties, which were worth a few $1 million, is worth half that today. Okay? So, you know, you have properties. What is the value of a property if it cannot be sold? I have properties that I could have got $15, $20 million for 5-6 years ago. Today, I'd be lucky to get $5 million for it. Don't you see all the signs for sale? But Tim, if you see me, I don't care about money and properties, you know, because what I need in life more than anything else, independence, some respect, and ambition to do what I have. My big drive in life was when I was 13 years of age and I came and I saw my father lying on a bed around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He was about 65. He was working, totally exhausted. And I said to myself, do I want to be like this guy at 65, having to go and grind down to that extent? So for me, look at me. Look at my lifestyle, Tim. Look at my lifestyle. I go to my home. I go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning until 2:30, and I take the afternoon off. I drive a Suzuki car. I have no airs and graces. Many people, including the PM himself, said to me a few years ago, Michael, you need something better than that, okay? I said, PM, I'm very happy with my car, okay? My car is 6 years old. I don't need those things, Tim. I'm an ordinary person. I meet people on the street and I talk to them. So I have no intention. And you know, when Dr. Tenson Joseph started this thing some time ago, bringing this whole twist of color and economic power, even Philip Pierre referred to Alan as a poster boy and all this nonsense, you know? I mean, this is crap.
Well, that point. Yeah. You're watching Hot Button Issue right here on Choice Television with my guest, Mr. Michael Chastanet. Stay with us. We'll continue the discussion in just a moment. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Once again, you're watching Hot Button Issue on Choice Television with me, Timothy Polion, and my guest is Mr. Michael Chastanet, a well-known St. Lucian businessman. Shouldn't you be considered fair game? I mean, you're the father of the political leader of the United Workers' Party. You have made certain comments that are certainly not in favor of the SLP. I imagine that you would not want to see the SLP emerge victorious during the next general election. You have seen in your party colors at the various conventions of the United Workers' Party. Therefore, shouldn't you be considered fair game?
Tim, I want St. Lucians to know that politics needs business and business needs politics. As I said earlier on, blood is thicker than water. My son is in a party, so I have to support him. But supporting my son doesn't mean that I dislike the Labour Party, okay? I think all's fair in love and war. Honestly and truly, when I look at the state of the economy, I think St. Lucia is ready for a change. And it's on that score that I have started expressing my concerns as a business person, because when you see your business going downhill, you have to do something about it. And it would be foolhardy of me or anybody else to just sit back and lose a ton of money, okay? So something has to be done about it. And it's not Michael Chastanet alone. The Prime Minister is fully aware of the fact that there have been a number of bankruptcies, a number of failures in St. Lucia under his watch. You know, You may ask, somebody said to me, one of his ministers said to me, when I told him recently of a certain business person who went under, and he said, why it never happened to you? I didn't think that was a good question, because some of us are more prudent than others. We have a better, more foresight than others. When I see certain things happening that could put me in trouble, I scale back, okay? And just like when I was in the shipping business, for instance, I was successful in the shipping business, but in 1980, when oil was $16 a barrel, I made a decision to get out of the shipping business because I realized that the cost of one item alone, which was oil, outweighed the equation required to run a successful business. Many people who stay in the business, and I told them together, fail. So you have to know when to get out, okay? And St. Lucia is my home. I've always loved St. Lucia. My biggest dream was I would one day make a few dollars and come back and invest it in St. Lucia. I'm not going to elaborate on what I've done. Everybody knows what I've done in St. Lucia. And it's hurtful to see businesses where other people are participating with me, like my tenants, falling apart. So, you know, I think Dr. Anthony had 2 terms, 1 term in opposition, another term. So basically, he's been around the corridors of government for nearly 20 years. It is time to let go. Let some fresh blood come in and take the country to another level. You know, you cannot hang on and hang on. I was in business for 25 years myself, and I knew when I had to get out. So that's one of the reasons why I have expressed my opinion. It's not a matter of being critical, it's a matter of expressing my personal views of what is happening, and that will actually help everyone. But if there's a change, I think people will feel differently about it.
But why should you decide that it's time for Dr. Kenny Anthony to leave or to demit office? And don't you think it's for the people to make that determination?
Oh, I agree with you, because at the end of the day, if they want to put him back, there's nothing I can do. I'm just giving my opinion. And as you said in your show, this is not a communist country. We should be free to say what we want, okay? I mean, I've never been rude to Dr. Anthony. I'm very cordial to him. But the same way that people can say to me, there are people, employees who come and say, you know, Mr. Chastanet, you're doing this business here. It makes no sense at all. I don't take umbrage to that. I think Dr. Anthony should realize himself today, because what is going on within the Labour Party is sort of difficult to understand. I mean, you have a group of ministers. I can't tell you factually it is so, but the ministers cannot make any decisions because Dr. Anthony, the buck stops with him. I mean, I have been told by at least 3 or 4 members of his party, very difficult to work with him, okay? But I'm not saying that is the full cause of it, but I think, honestly, that Dr. Anthony means well in one sense, that he's holding the purse strings and he's not allowing the ministers to make some decisions of their own. And you have to grow people when they're working with you.
But isn't it risky electing Mr. Alan Chastanet and so that he can become the Prime Minister of St. Lucia? He's untested as far as holding such a key leadership position in St. Lucia. And people are even quoting you. People have attributed to you comments that you have said that Mr. Alan Chastanet cannot manage businesses and he splurges, he wastes money. Now, I've not heard you make that comment, but it's being attributed to you.
Yeah. Well, you know, Tim, we live on a small island, a very small island, and people say things. We all know who started that, that comment. It was made by a politician. I'm not going to call anybody's name here tonight. And he said it to get at Alan. You know, let us assume that I thought that about Alan. As my son, would I really go out and pass such a comment? But let's put that aside. The answer is emphatically no. As a matter of fact, Tim, you know, all the people who've been trying to degrade Alan over the years for what he's done. Alan has been running Coco Palm Hotel. We have 150 employees with salaries about between $150,000 and $200,000 a month, okay, for 10 years. He doesn't owe anybody. Everybody gets their salary at the end of the month, okay. The man is upgrading his hotel and has a very good relationship with his staff. And another thing they said, he's divisive, okay. Mr. Centrose, who's the manager, has been with us for 10 years, okay. So, to answer your question, whether Alan is tested, I know comparisons are odious in life. Was Kenny Anthony tested? Kenny Anthony was a lawyer working with CARICOM. What experience he had? Zero. As a matter of fact, there's some people very close to Dr. Anthony who tell you that he cannot manage money. But that's again like a comment that was passed about Alan. I don't take that personally or I want to publicize it, but people say things. But when you talk of a track record, Alan has a track record. Not only is he running his own business, I've heard them trying to decry him as far as Air Jamaica is concerned. They can just check with the chairman, Mr. Butch Stewart. You mean to tell me a man will spend 9 years running an organization with 7 brand new jets, okay? And they didn't kick him out after a year. You'll hold him for 7, 8 years, okay? The guy was a director of the Miami Tourist Board, okay? He worked at Windjammer. He has lots of experience, okay? The man is 55 years of age. I was running a business when I was 16 and 17 years of age. Now, it doesn't mean that because I did it, he can do it too. But I have never had any problems with Alan in my life. We have an excellent relationship, okay? And for me, even in my shipping days when Alan was 16, 17 years, I'm not trying to sell Alan today, but I would sit on a ship in the Dominican Republic discussing certain things with him, and the man would come up with some very brilliant ideas. I'm not telling you he did the work, but he was able to discuss things with me, and Alan has a very good premonition for many things. But I'm not saying he's the best person in the world, but I think Alan has a vision, and he will undoubtedly, with a good team around him, bring St. Lucia to another level.
What do you think right now is happening on the ground in St. Lucia with regard to people of influence, people of status, people who have money? Is there, you think, some kind of fight taking place between certain sections, certain sectors, people with money and people with political power and people who have economic power?
Definitely not, Tim. Tim, you know something? St. Lucia is a very small island. I remember when I was working with Geest Industries, my managing director said to me, why have they got so many ministers? He was managing a place in Africa or something like that, with something like 500,000 people, and it was just 2 of them. You know, we make an issue of all these things. This is a very small island, yeah, and I find generally business is competitive in St. Lucia, but I've never had any serious problems with business people. I mean, look at, for instance, when I came back to St. Lucia, the Charleses were worth millions of dollars, millions of dollars. We started a sewer market, and think the tables turned, okay? We joined with the Charleses. They had 30% of CFL. We had a wonderful relationship. What did we do? We took their pluses and put it with ours and produced a magnificent company. So to answer your question, I don't see that happening. That's a fallacy that's out there, but doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
You say there isn't any kind of suspicion between people with political power and those with economic power? No suspicion
You
at all?
know, Tim, let me tell you something. The people, when they talk of economic power, other than places like the brewery, Winnera, and those big companies here, the people with money here, we're just small fries, man. Yeah.
You consider yourself a small fry?
I definitely a small fry. Yeah, people have made me what I'm not. That's why I sometimes laugh at all the what I hear, you know, about the millions and so forth. Where did it come from? I had to, you know, I did a book recently, and in my book I put down there that I owe a lot to the Bank of Nova Scotia. I've been borrowing money since I'm 17 years of age, Tim. Every ship that I bought, I borrowed 100%, but I had a track record and I paid the people back their money, okay? So, you know, this thing, I mean, if I was born, for instance, I've just listened to, for instance, some people say that when Trump's father died, he left him $200 million, okay? And he said that wasn't quite true, it was $100 million. But still $100 million, maybe 20 years ago, was a lot of money, okay? My father didn't leave me any money at all, okay? What my father had, he had a little half-rotten boat that I worked on, and if I wanted to come back in life, I want to lead the same life again, because starting at the bottom and learning all the ropes and the pitfalls in business is what really made me a very proud person today. And the fact that I don't owe anybody any money, okay, and I can run my life, that makes me very happy.
What role would you want to play, or you intend to play, in the upcoming general election, the campaign?
You know, Tim, the role I would like to play is a role which I have sort of begged the present Prime Minister to let me play, and that is just to listen a bit. Tim, you drive down regularly through the Bannan area, and when you look at the condition of that road with all those chassis just scattered there for somebody very soon to run into it, it eats me up. And I would beg the government, if Alan got into power, please get somebody immediately, clean up the waterfront, all those old boats down there, over by the Coast Guard station, 22 acres of land lying idle for 18 years. To the west of the customs, you have shed 4 and 5, 800 feet long, empty for 18 years. I've told the Prime Minister 1,000 million times, just take off the roof, raise it a couple blocks, and put 30 doors so the poor vendors can have a place until you're ready to spend and do some money. No, they don't listen. On the sidewalk, they have 3 or 4 old things there opposite the bank. I went to the Prime Minister. I said, Prime Minister, what is a sidewalk? He couldn't answer. A sidewalk is a side to walk on. And you put all dirty shacks on it. And you can give the people better conditions by just putting a door at the back and fixing it up. These are the areas that upset me tremendously. I go to the market and I look at the back and I see the squalor that's going on there. The poor people who are entrepreneurs of their own in the hot sun and the rain. And all it takes them is a couple columns and a shed over and pressure wash the place. Tim, I went yesterday at the back of the fire station across the water, the river. There was a Bailey Bridge there before that collapsed. I have told this government and the last government time and time, put a Bailey Bridge across, open up the street. These are the things that that's the part I'd want to play, right? You have 200 acres of land in Cul-de-sac doing nothing. I told Kenny Anthony, I told Stephenson King, take 5 acres of land and get out all those containers from Castries. The 1,800 containers are there. Only 1,500 are empty and getting peanuts in it. The tom is blocked off. These are the things I would do.
And nothing more, because
nothing more.
We hear again from the Prime Minister, and I'm not saying that it's unfounded. We hear again that you will have a bigger role to play in a United Workers' Party administration that's headed by your son.
Yeah. Tim, I'm 80 years of age. I mean, my family have a pattern, we don't pass 85. So that's another 5 years, if I'm lucky. My 5 years, do you think I'm going to go and do anything or give myself any stress at my age? I will advise them, and I think and hope that they will listen.
You're watching Hot Button Issue right here on Choice Television with me, Timothy Polio. Once again, my guest this evening is Mr. Michael Chastanet. He's still on the program. We conclude at about 10 o'clock this evening. So when we come back, we'll be taking your calls. Stand by to do so. I'm sure that you have some questions to pose to him. You have some comments to make to him. And he will be entertaining those So please do so right now. And we conclude, as usual, with the clip that peaked, and you certainly do not want to miss this. And in the coming weeks, we'll continue to have the discussion right here on a hot button issue as we continue the build-up to the island's next German election, whenever that will take place, and we understand it's during the course of 2016. And most of you, I'm sure, you're looking forward to going to the polls and also exercising your franchise. Back in just a moment. Stay with us. We'll put a telephone number on screen right now so that you can call once again with your questions and the comments for my guest. He is businessman Mr. Michael Chastanet. So do that right now. I think we'll be putting a telephone number on the screen momentarily so that you can call once again. Why did you write the book? Because you made reference to the book earlier on.
Yeah, I did. Because, you know, for a long time, people didn't understand Michael Chastanet, and I thought it was high time to air what I have done, where I came from, so people will get a better idea of who Michael Chastanet is.
Well, at point, I think we have a call. Good evening, this is Hot Button Issue. You on the air?
Hey, good evening, Tim. Good afternoon, Michael Chastanet.
Good evening to you, caller.
I've listened to Michael Chastanet, and I have kind of, you know, now...
Hello?
Hello, sorry about that, yeah, sorry about that. I've listened to Michael tonight there, and I've actually made up my mind, because he said a lot of important things. I made up my mind now that I'm actually going to keep supporting this St. Lucia Labour Party based on all he's saying tonight, because, you know, he's not said much to convince me in any other way at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, if that's a contribution, caller, I mean, come on. I mean, we're having a substantive discussion there. I expect that you would call in and pose a question to Mr. Alan Chastanet, but actually, you did not contribute anything at all to the broadcast. So we hope that we could get somebody. I think the problem is also we have to put a telephone number on the screen so that we could get some people who might have something of more substantial to say and to contribute to the program and pose a few questions to Mr. Michael Chastanet. Good evening, Hot Button Issue, you on the air?
Hi, good evening, Timothy. Good evening, Mr. Chastanet. I have an observation and a question. Some people would say that you behave like a politician and that you have openly criticized the Labour Party. Now, you spoke about a statement that the Prime Minister made, and Rufus Bousquet has echoed the exact words of the Honourable Prime Minister. I want to know, why is it that you cannot be criticized, and why don't you attack Rufus Bousquet? I want to know, is it that you're afraid of Rufus? Thank you very much.
I must say that this caller is very relentless calling this program again. But anyway, we've had our ding-dongs. Let's go. Go ahead with your contribution.
I have absolutely no problem getting criticism from anyone. But I wonder if the same can be said about the Prime Minister. Because when anything we say, he looks at it as he's being criticized. All I have to say to you, madam, is that I'm a business person in St. Lucia. I borrow money from the bank. I have to pay my loans. And I expect any and every government to provide a proper environment from which to operate my business.
Another call. Good evening, Hot Button Issue, you on the air? Hello? We continue to take our calls. Once again, this is Hot Button Issue on Choice Television. We have another call. Good evening, you're on the air. Hello?
Yeah, hi, Tim.
Good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, let me tell you, see that first caller you had there from Beaufort? Big call Alan the last time and insulted him. That's Salty Boots guy. I think you better cut it off anytime he calls.
Okay, thank you so much for calling, sir. Another caller 9. Good evening, you're on the air.
Tim,
Good evening to you, sir.
I couldn't resist this one. Two things. I wonder if you recall that in 2005, from the steps of the Castries Market, the Prime Minister announced to the whole world that Richard Frederick was worth $47 or $45 million. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. I cannot remember the exact figure. But he might have said something like 130 million, I think, you know.
No, it was 40-something.
Okay.
That was a hell of a thing for me to hear at the time. I didn't like it. And it was also the time when he accused Richard Frederick of selling St. Lucia land. And Frederick said, yeah, your wife, I sold your ex-wife, etc., etc. But, you know, people repeat things, and after a while, it even begins to make sense to them. This matter at Michael Chastanet is so loaded that you cannot afford to have a wealthy St. Lucian in the political arena, because he is going to have political power and he's going to have money power. Number one, has anybody talked about how much money Kenny Anthony has or doesn't have? Does it mean that if you are broke, like most politicians are anyway until they leave office, they come into power, and there are people around the world, for example, the Chuguris of this world, who have a record and will pay any amount of money for the ability to do things they could not do without a St. Lucian passport, for example. That's one example. These people are reported around the world to spend millions of dollars. So I don't get it that whether you are a poor person and the people like you enough to make you an MP or a prime minister, or whether you have worked your whole life and have some money, and therefore you should not be the prime minister. That is so absolutely ridiculous, one way or the other. I don't see what one has to do with it. What we want is honest politicians, politicians who show slate, accountable politicians, not whether the politician has money that is made, and you can't say he's into drugs, you can't say he's a thief. You should be encouraging. It's like one minister said, Philip J. Pierre, about the economic class, because before all this started, and I'm not making a plug for anybody, if it's a plug for them, good luck to them. But it affronts me to hear this kind of nonsense. 1 minute, it was because Alan Chastanet was the wrong color. That was the first article written by, what's his name, the guy at UWI, what's his name?
Kennison Joseph.
Kennison Joseph. That he should not be a tourism minister because of his color. And Philip J. Pierre then said that the guy was a poster boy for the economic class. What does that mean? Does it mean that if you have a few bucks, or you're presumed to have a few bucks, you have no right in government? And a minister who is going to be pejorative about a citizen and to say that he's economic class, is that telling you that the minister only wants everybody to be poor, or that he'll render you poor? These are stupid, mindless statements that really should not even be discussed, but apparently they take root, Tim. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We have another caller line. Good evening, Hot Button Issue, on the air.
Yeah, good night, Tim. I want to make a comment
Go ahead, please.
What the Prime Minister said on his platform in Denring. You see, Kenny Anthony, which is our Prime Minister, must understand, the Chastanets are St. Lucian just like him. And the cheap kind of politics and attacking Chastanet and Labour, to me, that's not important. What that is important is bringing the country forward. If Mr. Chastanet has a contribution to make, he has every right to throw his towel in the ring to contest the elections. I want to ask the Prime Minister, which is our Prime Minister, them cheap politics, he have to stop it. Because Chastanet is Chastanet. It's not only Chastanet that could vote to put a government in power. Because the country has enough problems that we cannot even solve. And far and foremost, from the time I growing up as a young man, I have seen a lot of people have employed both at the one they call in Caribbean Metals, and I listened to Mr. Chastanet many a times talking about business, and even the workers, I think, buying shares, or they buying shares for the workers, something like that, I can't remember. And I find this guy has put St. Lucian first. And what that really worrying me right now is that where the country is heading. I want to ask the Prime Minister if he believes that Mr. Chastanet has better ideas than him, or he runs short of ideas, or he feels the Chastanets are smarter than him because he cannot do the work because he has failed us.
Okay, caller, thanks a lot. Another caller 9, good evening, Hot Button Issue, you on the air?
Yes, Tim, good night.
Good evening to you, caller.
And good night to Mr. Chastanet.
Good night, sir.
Well, Tim, in my view, I think Mr. Chastanet has done a very good job in debunking those ridiculous comments with regards to economic power and so on. I am tempted to ask whether we have a database of the persons with economic power. And Rick came up and asked about the Prime Minister himself. After so much time in politics, I'm wondering if he has himself gained economic power at all. And, you know, now, Tim, even when you played the previous tape that you played earlier, the tape that you played earlier, I thought I was listening to an old tape until I started hearing about the Chastanets. Then I realized it has to be something new, because, you know, what I was hearing at the beginning of that tape are things that, you know, we've heard so many times before. And I really thought it was an old tape you were playing. You know, and listening to that tape in its entirety, it just seemed like a drowning man. You know, that's what it seemed like to me. It's somebody been at straws. You know, so I think, you know, whereas the Prime Minister has his right to do everything within the law and his power to try and regain, you know, his power, you know, he needs to understand that other persons have that same right, you know, to try to gain in power, and we need to be truthful to the people that we're seeking to represent, you know, and so on. If you putting yourself out there and you say you're concerned about your country, you love the country, you know, be truthful to the people. Don't just do things because you want to gain power. I mean, the Prime Minister, you know, I don't think people will forget. Not too long ago, you know, during the last election, he indicated that he would only serve 2 years. You know, prior to that, he said he would serve a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of time, and then he would...
I cannot remember the Prime Minister saying that you only serve for only 2 years. I call it, maybe you meant 2 terms, and I still can't remember.
No. The last election, he said after 2 or 3 years, he would bow out.
Okay.
And for the last election. And then they came up with something to say that they couldn't find anybody to take over from him.
All right, sir.
That is why he's still there. Okay, he couldn't leave, and then he's now running. But this time around, we have heard nothing as to how long he intends to stay.
Thank you so much. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Let's take a final call. Good evening, Hot Button Issue, you're on the air. Quick comment.
Yeah,
hello.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Yeah, I would like to know from Mr. Chastanet, as a #1 businessman or senior businessman, would he encourage trade union representation in his workplace?
Okay, thanks a lot. Trade union representation in your workplace.
Absolutely. We are law-abiding citizens. Once the union exceeds, I think it's 60 or 70%, I don't have a choice.
I think it's 50 plus 1.
50 plus 1. Certainly, the answer is yes.
Final comments from you, sir?
Yeah. Tim, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope that I've been able to impart to St. Lucians what Michael Chastanet really represents. That's why I wrote my book, Room at the Top. And I'm not here, it's not a sales pitch, but I hope that some of you can buy the book and learn a bit more how I started. I'm very grateful to St. Lucia for the start which I got. I was very fortunate to go abroad. My health seemed to have held out quite well, and I'm back here today. And I only hope that politically that St. Lucia can find its feet and we can get back to the days when everybody earn a salary and feed their families. I thank you.
Thank you so much for my guest on this evening's Hot Button Issue. As always, thank you so much for watching the broadcast and contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, we discuss a Hot Button Issue right here on Choice Television. Time now for the clip that peaked.
Comme si dit, moi venu bon, on lave. Hot more, comme si dit. Put your hands in the air. Hold your hand in the air, hold it there. Now we're going to the right. I duck in it. Go to the right. I duck in it. Go to the left. I duck in it. Okay. Duck in it. I duck in it. I duck in it. I duck in it. Okay. What are you ducking? Leave your hand in the air. Leave it there. When I call the issue, you ducking it to the right. Okay? Chastanet lies. I duck in it. Media propaganda. I duck in it. Corruption in government. Bad governance. Thieving people money. Election fraud. Operation Restore Confidence. Estefan. Steady, my brothers and sisters. Give me a little rhythm again. Give me a little rhythm. Give me a little rhythm there. I don't kill it. 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 Who does go to work on a Thursday or even a Friday when it have parties? I still put on my wet clothes, but I just stay to wine on the shorty. She tell me she up there. Tell my supervisor I sick, have diarrhea and I need to shoot.
Once again, thank you so much for watching the broadcast. My name is Timothy Polion saying good night and see you next time.